We're both recording and live.
Wonderful. Well, we're just going to continue, just moving on to some of the formalities then, while everyone kind of filters in. Before we get going on the consent agenda, councilors, is there any consent agenda topic you would like to extract out for further discussion? Councilor Young? I have none. Councilor Prinzel? Councilor Thomas? Councilor Roberts? Okay. The next topic is going to be going into these city ordinances. Now, I did ask Emily to prepare for discussion of temporary ban on the psilocybin, right? Say that close? Close enough. Good enough. Okay, I've been practicing that word all day. Anyhow, I know not that necessarily that might be not a consensus amongst the groups. I want us to have discussion on this, obviously. So even though we have a reading, I want to make sure we have discussion on that. So as soon as everyone gets in and takes a seat, we'll move right on with the agenda topic about these two ordinances. Sarah, Great Fire District is here today. You guys are going to sleep well tonight after going through this one. Hey, excellent. Okay, so the first one up is ordinance number 376-2022. Council Audrich, you were not, we had this discussion last council session. But this is going off of the discussion we had the prior session, I believe, when we were looking for an ordinance amending our Hubbard Municipal Code, section 915.07 on public indecency to model that of, I think, Portland. That was the discussion, right? So we do have one crafted now. I'm not sure, do we have Emily online?
Yes, Emily is online.
Okay, so Emily, you can keep me honest on this. I believe the ordinance was being crafted after the same ordinance that's in place in Portland.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So it's actually kind of a hybrid ordinance between what you currently have, which is modeled after the state law, and then also on Portland's. The difference and the sort of notable thing about Portland's public indecency law is that it does not have an intent requirement, which is where it differs from the state law, and which is what what I understood the city was interested in pursuing. So that's how it's similar to the Portland's ordinance.
Excellent. So I just want to go around and make sure that we have any chance for any questions that might be on the councilor's mind. We have Emily online, at least for this ordinance here. Councilor Yonley, any comments or questions you might have?
Nothing at this time, I know.
Councilor Prinzel.
Do we know, has this been challenged in court through Portland?
Yes, Portland's law has been challenged and has been found to be constitutional and lawful without the intent requirement.
That's the only question I have.
Okay, Councilor Thomas.
No questions.
Councilor Rogers.
The act of urination is considered public indecency versus different ways. That would be considered public indecency for urinating in public versus offensive littering, something like that.
So this is just how your code was before, and I can look up like that section wasn't changed from what it was before, but I can also look up if it's captured elsewhere. I doubt it. Is the chief in the meeting today?
Yes, he is. Chief
No.
Brash is here.
So what's the question?
I was questioning whether public indecency is the act of urinating in public.
So how I'm reading this, it says it's a house, or I'm sorry, it's a city ordinance, Hubbard municipal code ordinance. So it's my understanding we can write our city codes different. Public indecency would not include that on state law. If that's what you're asking. That's having sex in public or gratifying themselves or something like that.
So we have it as a city ordinance for that part.
That's what it looks like to me.
Maybe everybody else, okay.
Yeah, I think that's what Emily might be indicating as well. That's an existing.
Thank
Okay, do you have any further questions? Okay, if there's no concerns, can we move forward then with putting this in motion?
Make a motion to read by title only. A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So ordinance number 3762022, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code, section 1.15.070, public indecency.
I'll make a motion to pass the ordinance as read.
Second.
I think we have to read it by title again.
Make a motion to title by second reading.
Second time.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ordinance number 3762022, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code, section 9.15.070, public indecency.
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting the ordinance, say aye. 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 All those opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, the second one will probably be a little bit more controversial for discussion amongst council. So this is ordinance number 3772020, an ordinance of the city of Hubbard declaring a temporary ban on psilocybin. I'm sure I am saying that wrong, so I apologize on that. I've practiced all day, I'm still butchering it. Ban on service centers and manufacturing of psilocybin products. So the way this is being interpreted, I believe, is Emily's online, is this would have to go to the voters for approval?
That's correct. Any prohibition, whether temporary or permanent, the state law requires that it goes to the voters in a general election in an even numbered year.
So the reason I asked for her to craft this is I've been watching this debate move forward in the Portland area. Although some counties, I think it's Washington County, is allowing it, or maybe it was Multnomah, no surprise. A lot of other cities are enacting a temporary ban just to figure out where this is going to go. I think they're trying to keep the genie in the bottle, if you would say, unlike the marijuana initiative that just blew up everywhere. That is why I suggested that we try to pump the brakes, if you would, on this one. Wait, see what the rest of the state's going to do. That's at least my reasoning. But with that, council, Emily did not hear back from a lot of us, so I want to have a chance to go around and see where we are on this. Councilor Young.
So this is just a temporary, as I'm looking through this, we're putting a temporary ban in place through city council. Because the dates don't match up. So the Hubbard Municipal Code is automatically repealed on December 31st, 2024. But under the whereas, it talks about a 24-month ban. So that's about 18 months from now.
Good question. So Emily, on this ban, would it take effective January 1st, 2023 or January 1st, 2024?
January 2, 2024.
The ban, I believe it would take effect 30 days after the election results.
So December of 2022, expiring in December of 2024.
Okay, so it is 24 months.
Okay, I see that now. But just under the whereas, just looking at dates, trying to match them up and things that seem to match. You see them.
From what I understand, the ordinance is just a ban of manufacturing, selling of the products here, not of consumption or whatever the law allows today. And it's being referred, right? This is only the city council referring it to the voters. They will decide.
That's all I have to write down.
Okay, Council Prince,
Questions?
Council Thomas.
Yeah, this is why we're here, put it in front of people and let them decide.
Too bad.
And it's not our job to tell them that they don't have an option. So I'm in favor.
Councilor Irish?
I might be the indifferent one here, because Emily, when she reached out, I wrote her an email. We're putting something before the voters that the voters have already approved.
The state, not the
State, but correct. I mean, the state of Oregon has already said it's okay. I've done a lot of research on some of this, the way it helps people. I'm not saying that they're gonna open one up at every street corner, but I had no issues with, and I was just thinking, does it cost us to put this on the ballot? I mean, it costs the city to put something like this on a ballot when, to me, it has gone before the voters of the state of Oregon. That it passed. So I could see our funds being used in a better aspect than putting something back before them and saying, okay, we didn't like what the voters of Oregon said the first time, so now we're going to put this back out there again. Is it so that we get the desired results we want, or is it because the health, this isn't the same thing as your 1970s LSD, things like that. This is a very controlled. I mean, I would have rather seen us put something more on the ballot to stop the marijuana versus something that has been known to be much more medical beneficial.
Well, I definitely know when the marijuana shop opened up, we had quite a lot of comments coming in. So I think in this case, that's one of the things that at least inspired me to say, no, temporary ban would be fine. Because a lot of folks in Hubbard did not like the shop coming in. Seems to be rather frequented, but at the end of the day, it was not a popular ad.
I can't see that they can openly sell mushrooms because their initial law of 104, or whatever that was, measure 109 did not allow for that. It has to be in a medical type facility regulated by the state for medical purposes. Can't go to your pot shop and pick up psychedelic mushrooms. So I was a little awed at the fact that I was even asked about this, but I understand there's concern. But to me, this isn't something that needs to be addressed. So that's my take on it.
Well, Councilor Rogers just bring up a good point. What is the overall cost to the city?
Well, the city attorney, having them go ahead and prepare the ballot title and whatnot. So I don't know, maybe Emily could answer that better.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure the cost of putting it to the ballot. I mean, I can certainly provide my cost in drafting the ballot title, but I don't know the total cost to the city.
Okay, so Administrator Noble, so you believe though the cost is basically limited to the time that we're using for Emily to craft the ballot?
I believe so, yes.
Because then it just gets submitted into the state, and the city absorbs whatever costs for printing.
The county doesn't charge us.
I don't believe the county charges us to put it on there.
And-
Not sure, but it's all gonna be her cost, attorney's cost to prepare everything.
And I should point out that my costs are pretty low because, as the mayor pointed out, a lot of cities are considering this. The League of Oregon Cities came out with a model ordinance and resolution, which these are primarily based on. So it's a low cost.
Okay, I believe on this one, at least in terms of the ordinance, I would rather, instead of doing the motion, it sounds like we're going to need a vote as opposed, because the motion is going to be dependent on, I'm assuming, a consensus.
Well, the motion would be a vote, so it's either way.
Okay, I would like to go ahead and just move forward then. I would like to make a motion that we adopt the ordinance number 3772022, an ordinance of the city of Hubbard declaring the temporary ban on the psilocybin service centers and manufacturing of psilocybin products.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed say nay. All those abstaining?
No, I can agree to read it by title both times.
Oh, well, I just figured we just got through the chase and make it easy. I just want to make sure that we had a very clear way of, if someone wanted to dissent, it's perfectly fine. Okay, so I think you've got your motion carried. Thank you. I do appreciate, by the way, the open discussion, the open debate. That's what I'm hoping.
You need to adopt the ordinance, so you need to do your by title.
All right.
That was your title.
Hold on.
Okay.
Can we do a motion to read by title only for first reading?
Second.
Okay, ordinance number 377-2022, an ordinance of the city of Hubbard declaring a temporary ban on, just torturing me on this one, psilocybin service centers and the manufacturing of psilocybin products.
Make a motion to read by title only for the second reading. Second.
Okay, ordinance number 377-2022, an ordinance of the city of Hubbard declaring a temporary ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacturing of psilocybin products.
Excuse me, we need a vote on, you have your motion, first and second, and then you need to vote on the motion.
Yep, we haven't gotten to that part yet, though.
No, each one of those.
You have to vote on the motion first and the motion. and
Wow,
vote on
you
the
gotta be
motion
kidding me. Seems like such a heavy Protestant, I can just vote on it. So you want us to vote on each one, A, B, and C?
You have to do that on the ordinance.
Wow, all right. So let's go back to A then. We already had a motion. We already had a second. The ordinance number 377-2022, an ordinance of the city of Hubbard declaring a temporary ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacturer of psilocybin products. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, next one, B. Counselor Thomas has already made a motion. I believe Counselor Prinsloo already made the second. The ordinance number 377-2022, an ordinance of the city of Hubbard declaring a temporary ban on psilocybin, I can't even say that word, service centers and the manufacturer of psilocybin products. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay. And with that, I would make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adopting this ordinance, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right. The ayes are dotted, the T's are crossed. Moving on, number 5, we have a resolution number 738-2022, a resolution referring to the voters of Hubbard, a measure proposing a temporary prohibition on the psilocybin-related businesses within the city and authorizing the filing of exemplary statement relating to this temporary prohibition. And Attorney Mastersar, can I say that last name correctly?
Matasar,
Navisar, thank you. My apologies on that.
no problem.
I don't know, I think we've already had a pretty lengthy debate on it. Is there anything additional council would like to add? Any additional questions? Okay, then with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 738-2022, the resolution referring to the voters, the temporary prohibition of the psilocybin related businesses within the city.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay. And with that, we will move on. So a motion does pass 4-1. With that, 6, appearances, interested citizens. Do we have anyone online?
There's Craig Johnson, but I think he's here for North Marion, so there isn't anybody extra.
Okay. Then with that, we'll just keep moving on. 7, continued discussion regarding loving partnership. We'll go to Chief Rash for this.
Okay, I thought you got a copy of the email, but I didn't see it in the packet. So Rosetta
Longer.
Thank you. Interim director there. She, they said they basically set it up the same as they would a wood burn, with the 25,000 in the first year. Set up a checking account, would need some startup money, 300 or something like that. And then they would take, 20%, I think is what she told me last, it's not in the email here. So like if a citizen needed $30 to pay their utility bill, they would add 20% onto that with $6. So 20, yeah. So it would be 36 out of the fund. They would keep 6 and give the city back the 30, an example. And that's what they're doing in Woodburn, is my understanding. But she did throw another twist into it. There's and you got 2 things on the internet. I don't really I guess I didn't understand a lot of people out there without internet who were low income. So that one, they would like, if we decide to have an option of families need help with the internet with Comcast. It's a program through Comcast. Is Comcast here now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so it's some partnership there for low income families. And part of the funds out of the ARPA can be used for stuff like that.
Would that be some sort of favoritism, considering we have other internet provider franchisees within the city limits?
Yeah, I don't know. This, I don't know that, the answer to that question. It is a thing geared for low income families. I don't know if the other internet providers do that.
Maybe that's-
Is that this one that's in our package?
Yes.
Yeah, there should be two things she sent me. But if we are interested in doing the internet, they would need 30% administrative costs for the first year instead of 20. So, and then it will drop down to 20% for the second year.
Is it acceptable for us to push back, basically let them work through the internet provider? I know Wave honestly offers like a $10 a month internet
Yeah, I
plan for those that need.
This is just a suggestion.
Okay.
I'm indifferent on this part. The benefit is if there are kids out there who don't have the internet's used in schools, right? And the schools aren't close to our neighbors, they're 3 miles away. We don't have a library where they can go. I can see the benefit of at least giving the kids a chance to be educated, but I don't know what else, the parents are gonna use it to Amazon shop or whatever.
Right, sure.
I think the question is, can they go to Comcast and sign up for the same thing versus going to,
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. She didn't say.
I mean, they're just a go-between for 30% versus going directly to Comcast, which I think they can.
I believe when we went down into remote learning 2 years ago, Wave was pretty animate, at least the school district for sure, offering very cheap internet packages at the most lowest rate. So I do know they're available out there. 30% on top would be kind of harsh. Especially using ARPA funds for that. But other than that, I'm perfectly fine with the rest of the agreement. I think it's a good partnership, and I think Love Inc. does a good job for the communities. that they
Love
support.
Inc. has recently gone through a lot of major changes. If you wanted to say out with the old and with the new, rebuilding a reputation and getting back into the good graces of the communities. So I would support this. for Love Inc.
Well, this didn't come through, did this come through Love Inc. or this didn't come straight from Comcast?
No, that came from Rosetta. She sent it with the email that I thought was attached and then discovered it was not. So I have it here.
Yeah, I remember, I was looking at this earlier tonight. So it did come through my email.
When I say support, I support the utility, not the Comcast.
My concern is really the favoritism, or perceived favoritism towards one franchisee over the other 3 that are within the city, whether it's CenturyTel or Wave.
Just kind of more of a general comment about Love Inc. and these other companies. I just kind of the back of my mind feel that 20% administrative costs is kind of high in my opinion, but that's just throwing that out there. It's kind of something I might be uncomfortable with paying that much. Now, they do a good job, and they, from what I understand, but I've been told anyway, that seems to me a little steep. Just throwing that out there as food for thought.
Good thought. What about you, Councilor Franklin?
I'm in support of having Love Inc. administer the funds minus the Comcast for internet. I think there are other options out there that would be better served. than paying that extra 10%.
Councilor Thomas?
Yeah, I think that's 30%, right? So if you want one hand, you're saying I want to help low income people, and the other hand, you're saying, but I'm gonna take 30%. So we can see through that, most people can. I'm in favor of people getting access to internet, but not at the 30% fee.
What about the rest in terms of ministering for utilities?
I'm fine with everything else, as long as we're not caught up in the, we can't be Comcast or can or can't be Wave, as long as we can get that straight. That's fine.
You, Councilor Irish?
Yes, I'm in favor of them doing the utilities. They already are, we already contracted with Lebanon as a council for that $450,000 grant we got, or with Woodburn, at which 50,000 went to pay their administrative fees on that, so.
Chief Rash, what would be the next steps that we're looking at here?
Well, so my guess would be contact them and have a contract written as like it's a Woodburn, and then run it through our attorneys and hopefully have it prepared for the next council meeting.
Sounds good to me. I think what you're hearing from the least general consensus is the internet part being taken out, focus on the utilities.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, they had their meeting and then she sent me this with the internet stuff, and so.
Yeah, I was reading this, I was like, wow, this looks like a unsolicited advertisement of some sort of thing. Okay, any further discussion needed on this, Chief Rash, from council?
I don't think so. I just, they made the proposal. I want to make sure you had it. And I'm thinking about it. I don't think I'll be here for the September meeting. So I'll try to have it for October. Will that be okay?
Unless there's a pressing need right now. Okay, that'd be fine. Thank you. Okay, moving on down, mayor or council presentations, Councilor Prinsloo,
I have none.
Councilor Youngman.
Do you not have anything to say?
I know I mixed it up there, didn't I? Councilor Thomas, Councilor Aldridge.
No, I went to City Park for an Hot Fest. And it seemed to go well for the time I was there.
Yes, I did enjoy the Hot Fest. It was a great turnout this year. If anything, it ended almost a little too early. Just by the time everyone showed up, the band was finishing up. But generally speaking, I like the friendly, more family-friendly environment that they definitely set up. The lack of a cover charge for people to get in to watch the band was great. I noticed lots of people lingering outside there until they figured out that they could come in, and then it filled up pretty darn quick. That was great. And I also, again, want to reach out and thank all of our first responders and public works, everyone else that helped out with the National Night Out last week. That was great. It was great seeing the firefighters there. I know the kids love turning on and off the fire engine. I kept thinking, man, how many gallons of gas is that consuming? But they loved it. They loved shooting the hoses. The officers seemed to be out really enjoying themselves, meeting with the broader community as well. I know I got a chance to meet a lot of neighbors that surprisingly I've never met before. We had quite a few turnovers in the city. And Superintendent Krebs, thank you for making rounds as well and having Public Works, have a visibility around the different parties as well. I think that works out really well. That's my at least take. I do have something for other city business though, so it doesn't want to go in here though. So we'll talk about that other city business. If nothing else, let's keep moving on. Number 9, discussion regarding compensation for non-represented employees. And we're going right back over to Chief Rash.
I get the call today. So got a couple things for the council to consider. First one is when we were negotiating the police union contract or police association, we were separating out longevity pay. And we finally agreed upon up to 10 years, 2%, at 15 years is 3%, and at 20 years is 4%. With that in mind, we put that in the budget in anticipation of getting that into the personnel rules of separating out longevity, or there is no longevity pay. There's longevity pay in most jurisdictions. And looking down the line, it may be a way to have higher compensation that we can continue hiring people, as we know that's been a little difficult. So I strongly recommend the council consider adopting a longevity pay that's consistent with what's in the union contract.
So your suggestion is to mirror what the agreement is with the union for the
Yes.
city employees?
Yes, and currently, so there's 5 employees, 3 of them would be at the 4% and 2 of them would be at the 2%. And there isn't anybody else who's close to any longevity pay.
Go back around council, but we'll start over on this side. Councilor Rogers, questions?
May I add one more thing?
Go ahead.
So, and as I talked in my performance evaluation, I made that we need to make sure the sergeants stays consistent with the officers' pay. And this would, with the top officer now getting 4%, it compresses that even more. And Sergeant Anderson would be one of the beneficiaries of 2%.
Now, is this for all city employees that you're speaking for, or is this for the police?
Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of all the city employees.
Back over to Councilor Rogers.
Seems reasonable.
Councilor Tom, Councilor Prinsloo.
I think it's important that we've invested as much time and effort into the employees that we have, that we try to keep them. And I think longevity pay is a good way to do that. It's an incentive.
Councilor Young.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of longevity pay. Where I work at, about every 4 years I get a pay increase, but it's probably better than their percentages that we're giving them. So that's definitely in favor of keeping them around. Don't need to be spending a lot of money in retraining.
Oh, yes. Turnover costs a lot of money. I'm not gonna disagree at all. I'm gonna concur with what council's saying. So Chief Rash, from your standpoint, then the next steps on this is,
I think you guys make a motion and vote on it.
we would need the ordinance or the motion, I'm assuming crafted.
You'll have to amend the personnel policy, so there'll have to be a resolution that does that at the next meeting.
Okay, so I'm thinking you're hearing concession if we can pull together an ordinance or a resolution on that, I should say, not an ordinance.
The width
That's not my realm of things.
would be retro if we started.
That would be a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming it would be starting.
From the time we adopt it forward.
Yes. It's a good clarification question there. All right. Any further discussion on that one required? Chief Rash, anything additional?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the other compensation is when we're discussing the union contract, it was agreed upon at 3%. And there was something that was left open that for council to consider, because all the other employees got a 1.67 raise for July 21 to 22, or yeah. So we are asking council to consider raising the 1.33 to bring up the other employees to that 3%.
May I interject? It was 1.63,
Oh,
and so it'd be 1.37.
yeah.
So what would the new be?
So I think what he's trying to say is, so the officers were retro back 3%, and that's what he's asking the rest of the employees is back to 3%. It'd be a retro.
Okay, so it's an interesting flip case, because I believe during the discussions that we had earlier, the worry was that the public employees or the other employees would have a greater raise than the police department. Yeah, so now it's gone the other way though. Keep my mouth shut though, hear what council has to say. Councilor Young?
I'm still not, can you try and restate that again on what the line of thought here is? Talking about our non-union employees,
Yes.
and so we're asking for longevity increases, which we just discussed. And then the next request is to increase their general pay by up to 3%.
Yeah, it would be an increase of 1 point.
Up to 3%. Yeah, up to 3%. So
But it would be through the period of trying to remember, to, July 2021, right, to June 2022.
Yes.
And what would that be an increase of? Current salary, current pay?
From that time period, it would have been the salary schedule.
Prior to?
So the officers got retro 3%, and that's what he's saying, that the other employees would get the 3% as well during that time.
They would get 1 point.
1.37, which would make it a 3%.
Back for that time frame.
Right.
And I don't know if you have this or not, you know what total dollar amount that might come up to?
I do not.
Okay,
I can base it on what I made. You know, what went through 7 is, and I think mine would probably be a little over 1,000. That'd probably be the highest.
Because it's all employees included.
except for the union.
Union, yes, there's already set.
Councilor Prinsloo?
I'm in a quandary. I like being able to pay more money, but at the same time, I have a budget that I'm responsible for partly, as we all are. And I like our employees and what they do. The association, the police association got a extra raise at our request. And I can't say that I'm willing to vote for spending more money for the rest of the employees at this time.
Councilor Thomas?
So it's interesting, sometimes we say, we care about our employees, we want to keep them around, but I'm willing to give them this, but not that. And if we're talking about $1,000 per employee, do we really care about them? So I'd be in favor of it.
Councilor Rogers?
Understand the quandary that Robert's talking, that Councilor Crusoe was talking about. Because we budgeted, we went through the budget process and we balanced the best we could based upon facts and figures. I thought 1.6 was rather low. At that point, I thought we should have looked at maybe a 2. But come back after the fact again and then start trying to catch up again is really me the quandary.
Well, I think if I was to have a comment, I think without numbers, it's a very hard discussion to have. Could we bring this back in at the next councils? I know you won't be here, but can Administrator Noble or Sergeant Anderson, whoever would be, could bring some numbers back to give us an idea of what these numbers are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would that be acceptable for council, at least provide at least some additional data points?
I'd like to know whether we're obligating ourselves for $6,000 or $20,000.
Yes, yes. So, okay, I know we don't have that data available this evening, but so I think what we're asking for are 2 things, and then we'll see if Chief Brash has an additional topic. But
Nope, I'm done. Those are the 2.
okay, so the first one is going to be an amendment to the city policies for the departments or for the employees on incentive or longevity pay, incentive pay. The second one would be for them to please bring back whoever, Chief Rash or a representative, whoever's going to lead, provide the information, just bring back the dollar amounts, which will probably be administered. I appreciate that. Thank you. You sure, Chief Rash? Nothing else?
No, I don't have anything else. I think I'm going to talk next anyway.
Okay. Well, let's keep driving through. Yes, you are right. The first one up will be the police department's police report. Chief Rash.
I just want to, I noted 2 errors. One was on the stats. Molly inadvertently typed 455 on area checks. It's 45. It doesn't change the bottom total. That was accurate. It was just a typo when she entered it in there. So
I just thought you guys were being hyper vigilant.
yeah. Sergeant Anderson pointed out, I don't think that's correct. But they are busy, as you see the front monthly statistics, back over 20 arrests, 112 tickets, stolen cars. 595 calls for service, so that's pretty good. And the other error is my fault on the Coffee with a Cop, and I'll get a flyer out here in September, but it's actually October 5th, Wednesday, October 5th. 2 years ago was October 7th, and I've been saying it's been October 7th. So I will talk to the owner of the bistro and make sure she knows the right date. So we plan on having 2 different times for Coffee with a Cop, like 10 and 2, I believe. Sometimes.
I'm just glad we have a coffee shop to go do that.
Yeah, I think too.
So 203 traffic stops. That is a busy month.
Yeah, those guys are busy. They work hard. So I think I probably have 2 in there. So, other than that, National Night Out, I think it's a success. We had 5 active neighborhoods, or 6, but one used it as a kind of a unique way of sitting down and search the community emergency response team. And they were going on what equipment everybody has, and trying to recruit people from the neighborhood to be on the CERT team. So they were all sitting in a chair when I stopped there. It's kind of cool to see them discussing that. And then the other 5 neighborhoods parties were great. Well, good turnout at the 55 and older one, so happy to see that. So, don't have much other than that. Does anybody have any questions?
Councilor Young?
It's just something that just caught my eye on this thing. Is that had 1 call for kidnapping. Can you get some?
That wasn't ours. That was probably, we cover Woodburn a lot, and so in the sheriff's office, I don't recall us having.
That's the one question that caught my eye.
I could further research that. The only thing I could think about is we have had a couple of domestics, and kidnapping is when you prohibit some, there's traditional kidnapping, throw them in the trunk, take them away.
And then there's the.
There's also preventing them from going to another room. So it could have came out as a kidnapping. But I think that's probably a Woodburn call.
Kidnapping can be largely defined. I remember a few years back where there was this one gentleman who grabbed his girlfriend by the wrist and hauled her out to the car when she didn't want to go, and he got charged with kidnapping.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
they didn't leave in the car, but just taking her out there and charged with kidnapping.
Councilor Prinsloo?
I have no question. Thank you,
Councilor Thomas?
No question.
Councilor Rogers?
No questions.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Let's move on. Hubbard Fire District. Chief Carlin.
Thank you, guys. So for the month of July, we had 85 responses. Approximately 47 of those were within the Hubbard Fire District, and the other responses were to our mutual aid fire agencies around us. We got a really late start into wildland fire season. It opened last week. I actually missed National Night Out because of that. I'm going to have Samantha Bailey talk a little bit about that in a minute. But we are getting rolling. We had a deployment to the Miller Fire last week for about 5 days. And we've got another task force going out. They'll leave Thursday to go to Redmond for pre-deployment. And that's due to the large amount of lightning strikes that happened today throughout the Valley and Eastern Oregon. So besides the call response, a lot of training going on at the station. That's a cycle that we're constantly going through as we bring up new volunteers and train them so that they're able to respond and do the job duties of the firefighter. Along with those things, though, we did have a couple fire investigations and a couple fire inspections. So any questions before I turn it over to Samantha?
General look at council. No, thank you. How's the construction going?
It's good. We're in the pre-planning process, working with the Bear Creek development, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Or are you
This
talking
is
about
the
the
dormitory.
dormitory?
Yeah.
Well, I missed the meeting, so we had to push it off for 30 days.
Okay.
So, because that was the point of that.
Well, we did miss you at National Night Out, that's for sure.
I missed it also. Thank you.
Samantha?
Should we do it now or just here? Okay. Hello, I'm Samantha. I'm one of the seasonal that we hired over at Hubbard. I got the duties of being in charge of the softball fundraiser along with National Night Out and Hot Fest. All were a huge success. First of all, Hot Fest was great. We raised about 4,000-ish. So that was really good. We have a big turnout for that. And then we had the softball fundraiser the weekend after that. Thank you all for your help. All of you had such a huge impact on that. And it was also a huge success. We made like 1,200 plus the sponsorships we got from some of the businesses around town. So we're hoping to do that in the future, make it an annual thing that the community starts to look forward to every year. And it was great having the police officers play with us. I think the community really enjoyed that. Seeing all of us work together and come together with the community was great. Then last week we had National Night Out. We had 16 volunteers that came out, and we divided that into what was going to be 4 rigs. Unfortunately, the whole wildland thing happened, and so we had to cut one down. So we took out 3 rigs, and we went to the 6 block parties. When we were there, we just engaged with the community. I showed this little girl how the Jaws of Life worked. She absolutely loved it. We took a picture together. The mom was super excited because she'd never like seen them work before either. So she thought that was super cool. She took a picture with them. We showed everyone our new brush truck. We got a new brush. The community really liked seeing that we're getting some upgrades, and we're here to support them in times of need. They were really appreciative of that. So yeah, thank you guys for all that you did to help us with 3 very successful events the past month. It's much appreciated.
You're welcome. Any comments, any questions?
Use the Jaws of Life and cut off our training wheels.
Well, thank you for the update. And yeah, it's been a busy month for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I forgot to add something. The fire department's having a bike rodeo on the 20th of August. We'll get that advertised soon. We'll have a couple options there.
Apparently I'm in charge of that too.
It'll be a good event, I'm sure. This is the same type of bike rodeo that used to happen at the Hop Festival or one of the other events. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. And again, just thank you for the fire district to continue coming out, giving us an update on what's going on. I think it's really great having the collaboration back and forth and the connection, since you guys are part of Hubbard too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your guys' help.
All right, let's move on to the administrative department, and we'll go over to Director Noble. Keep saying administrative. I should say director.
So elections deadline for apps is August 30th. I have a couple already in, hoping to get one more or more. The planning commission meeting, the applicant requested to continue the meeting to September because there's some information that he would like to gather and present. So this meeting will be open and then continue to September.
So this is
now.
next week's planning commission meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have had a couple of written comments to the record. So we'll probably receive more, I'm sure, and those will be added at the September meeting, those comments. We did have the supplemental budget did get postponed. We are still hoping that in September, we will be doing the supplemental budget. However, when the finance consultant went to log on last week, the computer died in the finance office. The fan and the battery went out, and we're hoping to have that back online tomorrow. So hoping to still continue with the supplemental budget in September. And I do not have anything else unless you have some questions.
Just the discussion regarding the administration department, right, is that 10CI?
Yes, that's right after my report.
Okay. Before we move on, then, any questions for Director Noble? Okay, on the next part. No questions.
So I prepared a memo for you on a request. Julie and I, as you know, been in there plugging away, trying to keep things running. And we really need some help in the office, and we feel that a part-time person we can keep busy. We felt that even before we went down to 2, we could utilize a part-time person. Especially right now, I have calculated out some numbers there for you on the memo. So I did some I used 12 months and whatnot. We're obviously into this fiscal year. We're down 11 months. And by the time if you agreed to do this, we still would need to adopt a job description. So you're looking at, another month. So we'd be down to 10 months. But at any rate, we have 1 month's worth of salary for the finance city administrator that was not paid out. And using the high end of the salary schedule for the part-time person that we have in public works, I figured we'd be on the same salary schedule for this position, which would be, almost 3 a month, or $29.98 is what I calculated out. And deducting that from the administrator monthly rate, we still have $12,290 left over. That includes, insurance, PERS, all benefits. So I did a top, mid, low range type of thing here for you, so you could get kind of a rough estimate of what.
So what you're asking here then is, I know I've had a brief chance to chat with you on this, so is using the budgeted money already for the city manager, right, just some of it, to allow you to fill a temporary position right now. I'm saying temporary, but a part-time temporary position that would be then determined on an affordability basis once the city manager is hired, whether this could be continued or discontinued.
Yes.
But right now, the money is within the budget. And we'll actually be not spending even 12 grand more, as you're indicating, and probably even more as we continue.
Right. That's correct.
I do appreciate you highlighting potential questions in red, and then trying to provide some at least input. Let's start with Councilor Prenslow. Questions, concerns?
How much training time do you expect to take to get your part-time person up to speed so they can do your data entry, LEDs, NCIC, that sort of thing?
Well, I feel that that would be an ongoing thing, but I think for them to be fully up to where we wouldn't need assistance, would at least be a couple of months for data entering, but we would be there assisting. I know I've had volunteers in before, and of course, we had some errors when I wasn't available. So I'm thinking at least a couple of months to get this person so that they're not constantly asking us questions and whatnot, fully on their own.
Only question.
Okay, Councilor Young.
Okay, so considering our challenges are hiring people out there, do you know people that might be interested in this type of position?
I did have someone, I don't personally, but I have had other employees mention some people that might be interested in this position.
Okay. I know that our pool of likely, hires is rather small these days. So, and I'm sure there's some things that they can probably pick up in short order, like opening and processing mail. It probably wouldn't take too long. Bank errands, answer phone, but then you're filing, your purging of records, your data entry, court would take longer. So some of this stuff you probably get them spun up pretty quickly on. And I know you guys are pretty swamped in there. So that's my own comments.
No, it seems reasonable.
Councilor Thomas.
Yeah, we don't really have a choice right now, unfortunately.
I know I had a chance, as I said, to talk with Vicky shortly on this, and the biggest is the port dates for sure. When they're slammed and there's no one answering phones because they're in here. So, I guess you have a verbal consensus from the group here to please write up a job description and I guess bring it into the next council meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's go on to Public Works and we will go to Superintendent Krebs.
Yeah, the last month's been kind of busy for us. Between deadlines for many different, reports that need to be out, vacations, personal things that have been happening, and the, renewal of the DEQ permit through DEQ. DEQ permit, our responses to the permit are due in tomorrow, so we spent most of last week meeting with the engineers and going over a plan to where we're gonna push back a little bit on a few of the requirements on this new permit. One of them is that they're wanting to increase the testing frequencies of everything we're doing now from the last permit, meaning BODs, total suspended solids, pH, quick temperature, and DO. They're all wanting a bigger frequency on those things. Some of them are going from 1 month to, or 1 week to 2 a week. Some of them are going from 2 a week to 5 a week. And some of them are wanting continuous monitoring done with it. We're pushing back on the requirement in this at this point that they want us to start monitoring creek flows, and monitoring creek flows for Mill Creek is a way they could determine whether or not our flows out of the wastewater plant are doing any harm to the environment. At this point, absolutely nobody has any creek data for Mill Creek. It's a pretty much glorified drainage ditch. So the information that they're using on this is coming from the Malala Pudding River Basin numbers that they had. And we feel that using those numbers for the bigger bodies of water do not cover what's happening here in Mill Creek. So as way it's written now, we would have to start monitoring Mill Creek immediately after the permit was approved. We're asking for a year so we can go down and clean it up, build some monitoring stations and that sort of thing. With it also, they're adding a new parameter to us that we haven't seen before, which is the nitrogen limit. They're telling us that the nitrogen that we discharge into Mill Creek can't be any higher on an average base of 3.2 milligrams per liter per month. So this is going to be one of those things that we're going to have to do some modifications to the wastewater plant to be able to make that benchmark.
What's our discharge today?
We don't have one.
So we don't have any clue.
No. Well, what our discharge today, it depends. Ammonia nitrogen is an interesting beast because there's certain ways that you absolutely have to run a treatment plant to get it to be removed from it. You've got to grow certain types of bacteria in the waste stream to be able to do that. So right now, some months it comes out to 1.2, some months comes out to 9 or 10. But it's not something we've worried about up until this point because we don't have a limitation on it. That's going to change.
So you're going to push back on some of these requirements, but
Right.
let's say they come back and they push back and say you have to do it. Is there, and this might be a question more for Melinda even, is do we have a opportunity from the state level to get some grant funding to help put in something like this? I mean, that's a pretty big financial burden for a small city.
Right, there is definitely opportunity for low risk loans. And then there is maybe a smaller opportunity for some grant loans.
Do we have any idea what this build out might cost?
I'm pulling numbers out of the air, but if we do it right, it's going to cost around $5 or $6 million.
Oh. Just Councilor Rogers?
Excluding the flow on Mill Creek, the testing that you do, is that all manually done right now?
Yes.
Is there a process that we should look at for a,
Let me correct that. A majority of it is, we do in-house. Some of it we send out to Water Lab in Salem, which is, what they call the nutrients, which is, phosphorus, 3 different types of nitrogen, which is, one is listed as, total Kendall nitrogen, which takes a distilling process to figure it out. Then you've got ammonia nitrogen, and then you've got nitrate, nitrite. And nitrite is what happens to the ammonia nitrogen when you convert it from ammonia. The process there is it loses some electrons on it, and so it turns into a different color.
so what I'm saying is there a process that can be purchased that does some of this more automated?
Yes, that would be something that we're looking into as part of the facility study that we're already doing. Yes, you can get temperature that's continuously monitored. You can get ammonia nitrogen that's continuously monitored through a probe type of an affair.
It's
So
not
yes.
up in the $5 to $6 million category.
Well, along with the ammonia that we're talking about, they're also putting a restriction on the temperature of the water that we can dump into Mill Creek. And unfortunately, it's not a situation where you go, you can drop it 2 degrees Celsius and you're going to be good. It's with that, like everything else, DEQ does its formula, and the limit on that is 1.4 million kcals per day. So you run it through this formula, you take what the running average is for the week, minus by what they think it should be, times it by a conversion factor, and that gives you the number. We are able to make that at all. Have never have been. So that's also going to be one of the things that we're looking at having to do some construction for. However, on that particular item, we've been saving for it. That's the
Reuse.
right that we've already got in there. I think there's a little over $1 million for that.
I just didn't know if we propose some automation sooner than later as a bargaining chip to get us buy more time for some of the major.
Well, we're already working into it a time frame. The way it's looking now, they're giving us 6 years to get it completed. But if you're also looking at that, the last time any major upgrades have happened at the wastewater treatment plant was in 2005. We've got some issues there that need to be addressed sooner than later before we start having breakdowns. Well, you saw what it did with the screw pump at Thanksgiving last year. And that particular piece of equipment, as with, I'd like to have the pump station looked at, it's 50 years old. And parts are to come by. The technology is 1984. So as I say, that's why the price tag goes up, is because we've been deferring this maintenance on this stuff for a very long time. Also, we're having issues with our disinfectant system. We use a UV system that was put in 2000, and parts can't be found anymore for it. So all of that stuff's going to be addressed with facility studies that we're already doing right now. That's why we kind of ran that at the same time as they're running our permit renewal, because if we would have done it earlier, they came and said, okay, you're gonna have to deal with ammonia, so we would have had to have done it again to take into account that new parameter that we put on us.
Sounds like one. Sure.
Question for you then on your summary dashboard. Is the permit part, the WWTP MPDES permit renewal is what you're referring to?
Yes,
Okay, I just didn't see anything in the backup, so I didn't know if you had additional details to kind of talk about, the risks, especially a $5 million price tag, stuff like that.
I'll just say I'm pulling it out of the air. We'll have
Oh, I know.
we'll have a more concrete idea when the facility plans, finish.
Okay, it'd just be great if you can keep us, especially in the dashboard here, just keep the latest information you have coming up updated.
Also, last week, we did our sanitary survey to the Oregon Health Department for our water plant, our water system. They came around and looked at our wells, our treatment facilities, our power and everything. And we passed with flying colors. Actually, they've got really very few things that we need to deal with at this point. One of them is we need to get somebody up the tower to take a picture of the access hatch all the way on top. I'm having a problem finding somebody who wants to crawl up there.
Gotta get the short straw out.
Have you thought about having someone fly out there?
Yeah, we did. Actually, the people from the health department suggested that to us, and we're thinking, yeah, that's good, because our engineer's got a drone, he can go out there. However, they require us to unlock it and open it. So unless we can get one that's big, that's got the finesse to open up a lock and then enough power to flip the top open, then unfortunately, that's not gonna work. Well, yeah,
It's a good thought.
we were all happy and elated about, yeah, drone, and until we realized that, yeah, we gotta open up that hatch and actually look inside the tank.
So that was a water test. How does smoke test?
That was my question. I saw the
there
smoke
was-
coming out somewhere.
There was a lot of people that were concerned because even though we did do our best to get the word out, not everybody got it, so. There was some hiccups the first couple of days, but other than that, after that, when everybody got the program, it went well. I haven't seen the data from it yet, and I probably won't until we get facilities planned. But last week was the water plant and getting comments back to you on the wastewater for that.
So if there was an issue in the smoke test, did you notify the homeowners? If you had smoke coming out of homeowners?
We will when we get to that. As I said, it was last week.
They
and I
didn't
have-
immediately say, hey, by the way.
No. They'll probably put together a video and at that time, we can go back to the homeowners and go, hey, your downspouts are hooked up to the sewer system. And that's what this is all about, is that's a big no-no when it comes to sewers. You don't want to combine them with any type of rainwater, so.
Okay. Guess you could also see if your truck's working properly or not.
That's true, and yes, we had a couple of calls about smoke in a building.
Not a trap, right? Also, I do want to at least acknowledge, thank you for getting the list of things that need to go in your standard. I know that's been a lot going on this month already. So brainstorming and getting these down, at least now allows you to start building this policy.
Right, and that list is not complete. There's still some things that I'll go back and go, oh yeah, I forgot that one.
This will go a long ways, though, at the end of the day. We're setting those policies in place. If there's turnover in the future and people come on, it's great to have a policy document to go back on. Did we have any chance to find out if we have any ability to borrow from other cities on what they've already done?
Yeah, we do. It's more template type of thing, but the way I'm looking at it is I want to write this thing specific to what we do here, because there's always going to be a difference of how we replace a blower here than they do in Woodford. And I'm willing to do the extra work on that.
I'm gonna go around and ask questions this way again. Councilor Rogers, any additional questions?
I did have somebody ask me about some tiles at the fountain.
We're working our way through that. We started out with Larry Creekhauser trying to make up for it. He bought us the bricks. We've got to go out and find somebody to actually do the grading on us. We got them. It just, with everything that's been going on, it's just something that we'll probably tackle during the winter when the fountain's off. We've got more time.
That's the responsibility till the person has.
Okay. Councilor Thomas,
No question.
Councilor Griswold,
I have no questions, thank you.
Councilor Allen?
Nope.
The only other thing I want to do is a shout out, is thank you for getting that fountain pump, spraying that water up high right at the Hop Festival. That was an exciting thing, and whatever you did, it's shooting up real high, because I had a few people tell me that day, like, wow, is that supposed to go that high?
Yeah, it's supposed to, it hasn't been, so, yeah.
And good timing, by the way, that was on the existing pump. The new pumps, I understand, are in. So-
Yeah, I was gonna touch base with you on that. Melinda, Administrative Manager Olinger and I had a discussion. And we've got about 21 days left of the fountain. I'm kind of a little bit leery of putting new ones in now. The old ones are working okay because they'll sit there during the winter without being used, and the chlorine that's left in the water tends to corrode that stuff. That's part of the problem we have with turning over those pumps so often is the chlorine that we use in that fountain is extremely damaging to the inside of those pumps. So what we've been talking about is let it go to 21 days, unless of course we have another breakdown and we have to, and then install them in May before we turn it back on. So we have brand new pumps to carry us through the whole season next year.
Makes sense to me. Could we add that though on the dashboard at least, so we can remember come, what, March,
Yes.
April next year, that you guys are gonna have this plan to get those new ones put in?
Yes.
I mean, that's my, any other questions or concerns on that one from council? I mean, I know the pump sounds horrible when you hear it wants to die, but.
But, you know, the sound doesn't keep the kids from playing.
No, they're loving it right now. They're
And
loving
they
it,
were
especially-
complaining when we were only at about 30% pumping, so I'm happy with the way things are working right now.
Yes. Great. Okay, any other questions then for Public Works before we move on? Okay, then let's go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. I'll go ahead and read the titles.
I do have a question about the consent
Go ahead.
agenda. I don't see a copy of the check register in my packet. I wonder if it's possible to get that.
I got one here,
Is it the current one or is the one that's for the last one? Yeah, that's. They're supposed to be for July.
Oh. I apologize. I ran the wrong date, so this is incorrect check register. So if you would remove that, I'll have the correct one the next meeting.
Okay, we'll strike it. Good catch.
Thank you.
Yeah, see that on the date now. Okay, any other concerns on the consent agenda before I read? Okay, I will remove B. We'll go through the titles in A, approval of the May 31st, 2022 Budget Committee meeting minutes. C, approval of the State of Oregon Office of Emergency Management Infrastructure Contract 4599 DROR, Amendment 1, increasing the federal share from 75% to 90% funding for PA under DR 4599 OR. 2021 February ice storm, authorized the mayor to sign. D, approval of the Flora Hovenden Park use application for the 50th North Marion reunion on Saturday, August 5th, 2023 at Ribbonist Park from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. contingent upon the receipt of the required insurance documentation. And E, authorize North Marion Services Team Serenity Columbi, I hope I'm saying that correctly, to use the City Hall Council Chambers to meet every fourth Wednesday of the month from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. starting September 28th, 2022.
Make a motion, to accept the consent agenda as stated.
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda passes unanimously. Other city business, this is where I just have one topic to bring up, and I don't expect a resolution, but I would like to bring it up. I did have a citizen approach me last week and the week before, actually, asking about our business registration process. So really, this question is going to go back to, I think you, or Director Noble probably already knows this individual, but anyhow, they did bring up a really good point. That is, current business registration process, I believe, requires application fee and a land use review. And I'll just finish and you can correct me, but this individual is stressing that those that are maybe working from home now, those that might have a home office that don't see clients, those that don't work, actually do a service within the home, might not need to go through this whole land use process. Apparently something that was brought up in council many, many years ago. Got me, I wasn't here for that. But I don't know, Councilor Young, you might recall it.
Too many comments. I remember some discussion of that, but too many years ago.
Okay, I'm just curious then, if you have any comment.
So there's two things, and it's if you're operating a business in the city of Hubbard, you have to register. If you are operating your business in your home, you have to go through a home occupation application, which is through the development code. It's typically a staff review only, even if you have an office in your home. So if you guys wanted to change that, you would need to change the development code.
Okay,
And
and
then
what's
once-
the cost for the application?
So it's $1,000 deposit for processing a staff review, because it goes through our city planner and you have to send out notice, etc.
Technically, would individuals like Pampered Chef or Sensory, or I don't know, all the different home Tupperware type things they have today, would they all be required to go through that type of process if they wanted to register?
It depends on how much money they make annually, because that's another thing.
Okay.
So if you go in in the development code and go to the home occupation section, it tells you everything in there that you have to comply with in order to, for you to go through the home occupation process.
What is the current revenue minimum?
I don't have it off the top.
Okay,
of my head.
I
would
wouldn't
just
expect you to.
Look it up for you.
Yeah, my concern is I just want to make sure that that we do have everyone register a business that has a business, but I can see the concerns that they have if there's no real commercial enterprise happening in someone's house. If it's just like someone sitting at a computer or a contractor per se, maybe he's taking contract bids in, but his job site's his truck that goes off site somewhere.
Right, and this was all discussed at the planning level and whatnot, and they changed it to, because it was, some of it wasn't staff review, it forced it into planning commission review, and so it got changed to staff review only. So,
How long ago was that established? 20 years?
oh
Not that
no,
long,
Not that
no,
long ago.
it
at
was
least 10 years.
at least, yeah.
Yeah, I remember having those discussions back then. Because I was running an extremely small business out of my residence, and I had zero revenue basically because all the money went right back into the business. I had no income from it. So I was able to get out of having that done because it was a vending machine and
Right.
I just had storage in my house. That's all it was. My business is really out in the community and I made nothing off of it. Finally sold it all off, since I get this stuff out of here, it's just taking up time. Yeah, I was under the income threshold by 12 weeks. So I remember looking at that. And then after I sold it off, then we had a discussion about it, and I kind of brought that up. So I remember that being part of it. That's why cobwebs slowly get cleared here, but it's quite a discussion.
Okay, anything that, I mean, I know I cold called you on this and it's not on the agenda. Is this something we can maybe line up in October to maybe have some more information? I mean, I need to educate myself on it as well and all.
Sure, I'll provide you the copy of the home occupation, but what I was going to say as well is you guys are going to be looking at the development code for changing the aesthetics
Mhm.
and whatnot. That might be something else that you might want to look at
Yeah.
that time.
Kind of open it up once and take a look at it then.
I don't want to make my Avon moves on that.
Well, that's just it. Avon would be another one, right? That's another one where they're technically running a business out of their house. I just use Chuckware because I don't know what else to refer to. I know there's a bunch of different home business opportunities you have now. Lala Roo, I think that's gone, but
And there's probably quite a few that aren't registered with the city.
Well, that's just
that
it.
We don't know. unless
Because how would
somebody-
you know?
Yeah, somebody either would have to come in and, hey, I want to register, or, hey, my neighbor's doing whatever, you know?
it's,
And you get a lot of people even here in the Hubbard area, I don't know if they're residents or not, but, they do a lot of, Amazon versus, what are the other sales websites that are out there.
Craigslist.
Yeah, they do candles, they do paintings, they do that stuff like that. And it's just, kind of piecemeal, but they do sell it.
It could also be a counselor, it could be a consultant, it could be quite a few things that we don't necessarily need reviews for. So anyhow, I think it'd be great if you could just provide information at the next council, and maybe we can then try to kickstart some discussion on if we need to revise it or not. See if that, Chief Rash would love them if they would just come down and register their business.
All of our drug users.
Okay, with that, the next topic is adjournment, unless there's any other city business.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chief Governor, quick question for you, and not question, but just a quick follow-up. At our block party, we had that flare individual, the whatever, the FLR, whatever.
Yes, what do you got?
They left a host of USB drives, a host of like bottle coolers.